I never imagined the biggest blessing of my life would begin with me lying on a dusty floor in a wedding dress, trying not to sneeze under a king-size bed. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. My name is Lena, and on my wedding night I didn't walk into a fairy tale. I crawled under a bed to play a prank and found out my entire marriage was a trap. I know it sounds ridiculous. I'd always been the fun one. The one who turned every boring moment into a joke. Darren loved that about me, or at least that's what I thought. So when we got back to our new condo after the ceremony, I had this silly idea. I'd hide under the bed, wait for him to come in all sweet and romantic, and then grab his ankle and scare him. We'd laugh, cuddle, maybe cry a little from happiness. That was the picture in my head. Instead, what I heard under that bed ripped that picture into shreds. The room was still full of that new place smell. Fresh paint, new furniture, a hint of my perfume. My dress was puffed around me like a crushed cloud. My veil snagged on the slats above my face. It was uncomfortable, but I was giggling silently, imagining Darren panicking when he couldn't find his bride on their wedding night. The front door opened. I heard footsteps, but they were sharper than Darren's. Click, click, click. Heels. My smile froze. Veronica. My brand new mother-in-law swept into the room like she owned it, which technically she thought she did. She sat down on the edge of the bed, so close I could see the shape of her legs through the dust ruffle. The mattress dipped, and springs creaked inches from my face. "I'm home now, relax," she said, and for a second I thought she was talking to me. Then I realized she was on the phone. I don't know why, but my hand automatically went to my clutch. Before hiding, I'd opened the voice recorder on my phone, thinking it would be funny to capture Darren's reaction to my prank. The phone was still recording face down inside my purse under the bed with me. I didn't know that in the next 5 minutes, that stupid prank would become the only thing standing between me and ruin. "No, Chenille, there's no problem," Veronica sighed, crossing her legs. The girl turned out to be very docile. Too much so, actually. Practically an orphan. Her father some middle-level engineer, barely scraping by. I felt my blood turn to ice. My father? Barely scraping by? My father is the head of design at a defense engineering firm. He drives an old car because he doesn't care about showing off, not because he can't afford better. The tiny apartment Veronica inspected before the wedding wasn't even where we lived. It was my late aunt's place that Dad kept for sentimental reasons. But to Veronica, I was practically an orphan from a poor family. "Which is perfect for us," she continued calmly. "Darren says she has no one else. No mother, barely any cousins around. It means she won't have anyone advising her when we start the separation." Separation? I couldn't breathe. The air under the bed grew heavier, thicker, as if the mattress was crushing my chest. "The plan is simple," she said, and those 3 words are burned into my memory. They lived together 6 months, maybe a year. Then Darren starts complaining. "She doesn't respect me, she doesn't cook, she's messy, too emotional, whatever." I'll back him up, of course. We make it look like an amicable split. "And the condo?" She let out a small laugh. "It's in her name now, but we'll claim it in court. Darren put up the money. We've got all the receipts. The girl won't fight. What can a girl like that do against us?" My ears were ringing. I wanted to scream, to crawl out from under that bed and claw the smugness off her face. Instead, I pressed my palm over my mouth so hard my lips hurt. Darren's words from weeks ago floated back into my mind like ghosts. "Baby, let's put the condo just in your name. It'll make you feel secure. It's yours." He'd kissed my forehead, so gentle, so caring. And I had believed him. Completely. Now, under that bed, I realized what they'd actually done. I did use my money, my trust fund, to pay for the condo. I transferred it to Darren so he could handle the purchase. He had insisted on paying in front of his mother with cash, like some big hero. The receipts they had? They were for money that came from me. Veronica lit a cigarette. She'd sworn to me she quit years ago, and exhaled. "Darren and I have it all mapped out," she purred. "She keeps the condo in her name, but the judge will see our proof. It's all about paperwork, my dear. She's already got the ring, the certificate. Bird in a cage." I think my heart actually stopped for a second. Bird in a cage. That's how she saw me. Her phone rang again. "Hi, darling," she said, and my stomach flipped. "Yes, I'm in your room." "No, your little wife isn't here." Probably off celebrating with her poor friends. She chuckled. Just remember, no weakness from day one. She needs to understand who runs that house. And don't give in to tears. They're all the same. You give them an inch, they take a mile. My husband laughed on the other end. I heard his smile in her voice. Something inside me cracked and then went very, very still. When Veronica finally left, I stayed under the bed for a long time, listening to the echo of my own heartbeat. My dress was wrinkled and dusty, my veil was half torn, but I didn't care anymore. I wanted to run, grab my bag, call a taxi, disappear in my wedding dress like a ghost. That was my first instinct. But another thought rose slowly inside me. Colder. Sharper. No, I thought. You picked the wrong bird. I slid out from under the bed and sat on the floor, back against the wall, knees pulled to my chest. My hands were still shaking when I took out my phone and looked at the screen. 32 minutes and 18 seconds, recording in progress. I pressed stop. There it was. Veronica's entire speech. Darren's betrayal. The plan is simple. The cheap way they described my father. My life reduced to bait in their little scheme. I didn't have a husband that night. But I had something better, proof. I wiped my face, stood up, and changed out of the wedding dress into jeans and a sweater. I hung the dress carefully in the closet, like I was burying a version of myself that had died under that bed. Then I called the first person who had never lied to me. Dad. My voice still shook. Princess? Why aren't you sleeping? It's your wedding night, he said, half laughing, half concerned. Dad. Did you mean it when you said you wanted to put some of your shares in my name? There was a long silence on the line. What did he do to you? Dad asked quietly. The softness in his voice was gone, replaced by steel. Nothing yet, I said, looking at the bed. And I'm going to make sure he never gets the chance. I spent the rest of that night on the phone with my father, with my best friend Maya, who also happens to be a lawyer, and with the voice recorder app open in my hand. By the time Darren walked through the door, acting like the loving, worried husband, my plan was already forming. I wasn't leaving. I was staying. And I was going to burn their little simple plan to the ground. The next morning I woke up before Darren. Or rather, I sat in bed pretending to have slept peacefully, even though I hadn't closed my eyes once. I lay there watching his chest rise and fall, wondering how many times he had practiced lying to me during the months we were dating. I wondered if he ever felt even a shimmer of guilt. Spoiler, he didn't. Because the moment he opened his eyes and saw me, he wrapped his arms around me with that same soft smile, the one I used to melt over. Hey beautiful, he whispered. My wife. For a second, rage bubbled up in my throat like vomit, but I swallowed it down. I pulled his arm closer around my waist and whispered back, Good morning, my husband. He kissed my forehead the exact way he did in all those fake romantic videos he'd send me during the engagement. But now his touch felt like an insect crawling over my skin. Still I smiled. Because that was step one, act the part. If I wanted to expose them legally, socially, emotionally, I had to let them think I was blinded by love. When Darren showered, I checked the audio files again, backed them up to a hidden drive, and sent copies to Maya. She called me right away. Lena. This is worse than I expected. I know. I kept my voice low. We need to move fast. First, Maya said, we protect everything that's yours. Every rupee, every document, every login, every transfer. You follow my instructions exactly. No improvising. That was good. Because at that moment, all I felt capable of improvising was stabbing a fork in Veronica's eye. By the time Darren came out of the shower, I was smiling again, making breakfast, humming like an idiot. He hugged me from behind. Look at you, already such a good wife. A good wife. A docile girl. Bird in a cage. His mother's words echoed in my head like poison. But outwardly, I blushed like a teenager and said, I want to make your mom proud. He grinned. Don't worry. She already loves you. Liar. That afternoon, we went to Darren's parents' house for lunch. Veronica opened the door with her usual red lipstick smile, a smile that didn't reach her eyes for even a millisecond. Lena, sweetheart, she sang. Come in, come in. Yesterday, this woman plotted to steal my condo. Today she was offering muffins. Thank you, Mom, I said, leaning in for a small hug. She stiffened. Good. I wanted her uncomfortable. I wanted her confused. We sat at the dining table and she wasted no time. "So Lena," she said, slicing chicken with unnecessary aggression, "Darren told me you're handling the financial accounts in the new place?" I took a bite, acting clueless. "Oh no. Darren's handling most things. I trust him." She liked that answer. I could tell by the way her shoulders loosened, the way she exchanged a quick, satisfied glance with Darren. Meanwhile, I tapped my phone twice under the table to start recording. Veronica leaned in. "You know, sweetheart, it's good to keep assets shared. Joint accounts. Joint investments. Joint ownership. Marriage is about unity. Translation: give us easier access to your money." I nodded sweetly. "You're absolutely right. I'll do whatever you both advise." Darren placed his hand on mine. "She's perfect, Mom." "Perfect idiot? Perfect pawn? Perfect bird for your cage?" I laughed gently. "I just want both of you to be happy." The recorder in my lap captured every word Veronica said next. Yes, unity is important because when separation happens, God forbid, it becomes easier to divide things fairly. But you don't need to worry now. I frowned. "Separation? Oh no, we would never." No, it's just general advice," she said, sipping water. "These things happen. Better to prepare." I nodded wide-eyed while inside I mentally underlined every sentence in red ink. The more she talked, the deeper she dug her grave. For the next 2 weeks, I played them like a violin. I cooked for them, laughed at their jokes, massaged Veronica's shoulders when she pretended to be tired. I pretended to be the girl who needed guidance, who trusted them blindly, who believed everything they suggested. Meanwhile, in secret, I transferred every dollar from my accounts into a new one Darren didn't know existed. I contacted the real estate office and requested documents proving the funds for the condo originally came from my trust fund. Not Darren. I worked with my father to legally put his shares and a small plot of land under my full ownership. I saved receipts, screenshots, messages, and bank statements. Maya met me every third evening. "You're doing great," she told me. "Just keep collecting." "And the final step?" I asked. She grinned. "Public humiliation. They need witnesses. A sweet revenge classic." I smirked. "I want them embarrassed so badly they never try this again on anyone." "Oh, don't worry," Maya said. "We'll turn their simple plan into a very complicated disaster." 2 days later, I decided to provoke Veronica intentionally. I made a dinner so terrible even a toddler would cry looking at it. Saltless soup, overcooked chicken, burnt rice. She tasted 1 spoon and nearly gagged. "Oh dear God," she snapped. "Do you even know how to cook? My son is not a beggar." I bit my lip. I'm sorry." She rolled her eyes. "This is why I told Darren we should have married him to someone trained. Not someone with no mother, no family since." "Mom," Darren interrupted lightly, laughing. "She's trying." "No," Veronica barked, slamming the spoon. "She should do better. This is the problem with girls who grow up without proper upbringing." I pretended to sniffle. My hands trembled. But under the table, my phone recorded every second. Later, when Darren and Veronica fought among themselves, him annoyed that she was too harsh, her insisting I needed discipline, I recorded that too. I was gathering ammunition. They were handing it to me freely. They were building their own coffin plank by plank. One evening Maya messaged me, "It's time. Arrange a dinner. Invite his friends. His parents. You'll thank them for supporting your marriage. Then you drop the recordings. We'll handle the legal part." I stared at the message and felt something warm spread through my chest. A mixture of fear and power. I was about to destroy the 2 people who tried to destroy me. Within hours, I sent out invitations for a family bonding dinner. Darren was thrilled. Veronica looked smug. Perfect. The night of the dinner, our condo looked beautiful. Candles, warm lighting, fresh flowers. I wore a soft peach dress Darren loved. Everyone arrived. Laughter filled the room. Glasses clinked. Then it happened. Darren raised a toast. "To my lovely wife." I stood up slowly. The room quieted. I held my phone in my fingers like a detonator. "Actually," I said, voice calm and steady, "I want to say something first." My heart was beating like war drums. But my mind? Clear as crystal. I tapped play. Veronica's voice echoed through the condo. The plan is simple. Gasps filled the room. Darren's smile fell. Veronica went pale. And I smiled softly, gently, victoriously. Because this was only the beginning. For a moment the entire room froze. Veronica's voice, sharp, arrogant, dripping with confidence, kept echoing from my phone speakers. The plan is simple. She's docile, practically an orphan. We'll claim the condo after the separation. Someone gasped loudly. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." Darren's friends looked at him like he had just sprouted horns. Darren's wine glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. My husband, my con artist, went sheet white. "Lena, baby, what is this?" he stammered. I tilted my head. Exactly what it sounds like. Veronica shot up from her chair. "Turn that off. How dare you?" I raised a finger without looking at her. "Sit down." My voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was calm, controlled. And for the first time she realized she had underestimated the wrong woman. She slowly sank back into her chair. I tapped another audio file. This time Darren's voice filled the room. "Mom, relax. I'll handle her. She trusts me completely. After a year we separate, claim the condo, and she walks away with nothing." Everyone turned to Darren. He swallowed hard. I was venting. I didn't mean. I cut him off. "You know what the best part is?" I said. "Every single word you both said. You said it while I was right there under the bed on my wedding night." His jaw dropped. Veronica slapped a hand over her mouth. I continued. "I wanted to surprise you with a prank video. Something silly and fun. But God had a different surprise for me." I put my phone down. And I recorded everything. Right on cue the elevator dinged. The doors slid open and in walked Maya. My lawyer, my best friend. And the absolute storm they never expected. She stepped into the condo wearing a navy business suit and the most lethal smile I've ever seen. "Good evening," she said cheerfully. "I brought the documents." The room erupted into whispers. Darren sputtered. "Why is a lawyer here?" "Because," I said, "you weren't planning a marriage. You were planning fraud." Maya placed a folder on the table. Inside were bank statements showing my trust fund transferred to Darren before the condo purchase. Receipts proving he used my money, not his. The signed affidavit from my father confirming the funds. The recordings. A formal fraud and property theft complaint, ready for filing at a proposed divorce settlement, giving Darren absolutely nothing. Not a dollar. Veronica lunged for the folder. Maya snapped it shut. "Careful. This isn't your paperwork." I felt a rush of adrenaline. Power. Relief. Justice. "I'm giving you both a choice," I said quietly. The room went silent. I held up the fraud complaint. "If I file this, Darren, you can be charged with attempting to steal real property using forged financial claims. That's a felony. You'll also be investigated for financial manipulation and coercion." His voice cracked. "Lena, please. You'll lose your job, your reputation, and possibly your freedom." I continued. "Veronica may end up being investigated for conspiracy." Veronica's face twisted like she'd swallowed bleach. Then I held up the divorce document. "You walk away today. You sign this uncontested divorce. You take nothing, no condo, no alimony, no access to my accounts. You stay out of my life permanently." Darren stared at the paper, shaking. "And if you ever try to contact me again," I said, "I will file everything." For the first time since I met him, Darren looked small. Deflated. Like a balloon someone had stepped on. His mother grabbed his arm. "Don't sign that. She's bluff." Maya dropped another card on the table. A flash drive. "Not bluffing," she said. "Everything is backed up in 4 locations. And Lena's father already forwarded copies to an attorney downtown." Veronica's mouth snapped shut. Darren's hands trembled. The entire room watched as he picked up the pen, stared at the document, and signed his name. Then he dropped the pen like it weighed 100 pounds. I exhaled. Slow. Steady. It was done. Darren and Veronica left that night with the silence of defeated criminals. No dramatic speech, no fight left. Just pale faces and ruined pride. A week later the divorce was filed. Smooth, fast, uncontested, exactly how revenge should be. Darren tried to call me once. Maya filed a restraining order the same day. I kept my condo. I kept every dollar. I kept my dignity. And I kept a recording of Veronica saying the plan is simple, which I replayed whenever I needed a reminder of how far I'd come. The healing wasn't instant. Some nights I cried myself to sleep wondering how two people could be so calculated. Some mornings I woke up feeling like I'd escaped a burning house. But I did escape. I threw myself into work, into therapy, into rebuilding friendships I had neglected during the engagement. Then months later at a small cafe near my office I met Elias. He was nothing like Darren. Quiet but confident, smart without bragging. The type of man who opens doors, but also opens conversations. He asked about my dreams before he asked what I cooked. He never once asked what I brought to the table. When he laughed, it wasn't to charm, it was real. We became friends first. Then something more. Something gentle. Something honest. The first time I told him about my marriage, he didn't interrupt. He just held my hand and said, "I'm sorry you had to go through that. But I'm glad you got out." For the first time, I believed someone meant those words. A year later, Elias proposed in the most sincere way. No big show, no fake perfection. Just a quiet beach, a simple question, and a warm smile. And I said yes. Not because I needed someone, but because I had become someone stronger. People think revenge stories are about anger. They're not. They're about truth. About reclaiming your power. About refusing to let people rewrite your life for their benefit. If I hadn't hidden under that bed, if I hadn't pressed record, if I hadn't fought back, my entire future would have been stolen. Sometimes God lets you overhear the conversations meant to destroy you so you can destroy the plan instead. That is my story, and I hope it reminds someone listening right now. Never underestimate your own strength, and never let anyone turn your kindness into their strategy.